Hi, good morning, everyone. We're going to learn today Maseches Sanhedrin, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Vav. The last Mishnah in Perek Aleph of Sanhedrin. We previously learned that the Beis Din HaGadol has 71 members, 71 Dayanim, and the Sanhedrin Ketana has 23 Dayanim. Says the Mishnah, Sanhedrin Gedoyla Hoysa Shel Shivim Ve'echad. The great Sanhedrin, the Beis Din HaGadol, had 71 Dayanim. Uketana Shel Esrim U'Shloisha. And the lower Sanhedrin, the Sanhedrin Ketana, had 23 Dayanim. So now the Mishnah is interested to know, how do we know? What is the source? What is the Mokor that Sanhedrin Gedoyla is 71 and Sanhedrin Ketana is 23? Frag the Mishnah asks, Uminayin legedoyla shehi shel shivim ve'echad. What is the source? From where is it derived? How do we know that the Sanhedrin Gedoyla consists of 71 Dayanim? Answers the Mishnah, Shneemar, Esfa li shivim ish mizikne Yisrael. It says in Bamidbar, Perek Yud Aleph, there it says in the Pasuk that the Rebbeinu Shalom says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Esfali, gather for me Shivim ish, 70 men from among the elders of Israel, from the Zakenim, from the Choshev, from the Talmid Chachomim, from the Chachomim. That is to say, that the original Sanhedrin Gedoyla, that the very first Beis Din HaGadol in the Midbar had 70 Dayanim plus Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe al Gabeim. And Moshe was on top of them, which means Moshe was the Gadol Shebedayonim. Therefore, we see that 71 Dayanim are required for the Sanhedrin Gedoyla. An important comment by the Rav, he says, Moshe al Gabeim, Arei Shivim Ve'echad, says the Mishnah, the Omar Karo, because the Pasuk says in Bamidbar Yud Aleph, V'nosu itcha, and that they shall deliberate with you, they shall carry the burden with you. Meaning, Ve'at ba'adayu, and you are with them. You are also a member of the Sanhedrin Gedoyla. 70 plus Moshe Rabbeinu is Shiva Ve'echad. So this is the Mokor that the very first Beis Din HaGadol had 71 Dayanim. Interestingly, however, that Rabbi Yehuda is Choylek. We think that everybody agrees that Sanhedrin Gedoyla is 71. Yeah, that's the way we paskin. That's the way we rule. A Beis Din HaGadol needs to have 71 Dayanim. But Rabbi Yehuda, the Tana Rabbi Yehuda is Choylek. And Rabbi Yehuda says, no, a Beis Din HaGadol has only 70 members. It has only 70 Dayanim. That Moshe Rabbeinu was not included. There are only 70. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the 70 Chachomim, the 70 Zakenim, formed the complete Beis Din HaGadol on their own without Moshe Rabbeinu. Because Rabbi Yehuda interprets the Pasuk, V'nosu itcha, that the Rav just quoted, V'nosu itcha, and they shall be with you, which means it's seemingly, according to the Tanakama, that there's a 70 plus you, plus the itcha. Who is the itcha? The Moshe Rabbeinu. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Nosu Itcha means that the 70 Dayanim who are the members of the Beis Din HaGadol, according to Rabbi Yehuda, should be V'nosu Itcha. They should be similar to you. They should have the same qualifications as you. That is to say, they must be born of Jewish parents. They must be free of any mumim, of any physical blemish, and any other qualifications and characteristics necessary in order to be a dayan of the Beis Din HaGadol. Now, you could ask a question right away. But we all know, we said already a few times in the past Mishnayos, that there's no Bezdin Shokul, that there cannot be a Bezdin with a number of Dayonim that is an even number, because you need to have a majority rule. We know the halacha that a Bezdin may not have an even number of Dayonim, as the Mishnah will soon tell us emphatically. So how can Rabbi Yehuda say that the Bezdin Agodol, the Sanhedrin, had 70 members? So Rabbi Yehuda, however, holds, Shitas Rabbi Yehuda is that the Sanhedrin Agodol was the exception to the rule. Yes, the Bezdin, the small Bezdin of 3, the Sanhedrin Gadol of 23, no way. It must be an uneven number. Can't be an even number. You need to have a majority, except, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Sanhedrin Gedolah, the Bezdin Hagodol was an exception because, says Rabbi Yehuda, that the Pasuk says in Bamidbar Yud Aleph, Esfali Shivimish. The Pasuk emphatically says 70. We don't, however, paskin like Rabbi Yehuda because we paskin like the Tanakama that the Sanhedrin Gedolah is 71 because there is no exception to the rule that a Bezdin can be an even number. Atkat. Now the Mishnah discusses the lower Sanhedrin, the Sanhedrin Kitana of 23. Uminayin leketana sheishalesa v'shloisha. How do we know from what is the Mokkah that a Sanhedrin Kitana has to be 23? Shenema, because it says v'shoftu ha'eda v'yitzilu ha'eda. V'shoftu ha'eda v'yitzilu ha'eda. It says concerning a court. It says concerning a Bezdin that tries a case involving a death penalty, which is a Bezdin with 23, right? We already previously learned that a Bezdin with 23 is authorized, is able to judge Dinin Lifoshos, capital punishment. And there it says, V'shoftu ha'eda, and the congregation, the Eidah, meaning the Bezdin, shall judge. And then it says, V'yitzilu ha'eda, and the Bezdin shall save. What are these psukim talking about? These psukim refer to an accused murderer who is either put to death by the Bezdin, right? V'shoftu ha'eda, either he's put to death, they pass judgment on him to receive the death penalty, or they acquitted him. They acquitted him is seen in the word v'yitzilu ha'eda, v'yitzilu. They save him. They do not put him through on the death penalty. So a lower court, a Sanhedrin Kitana of 23, tries capital punishment, as we've seen, and therefore they are. This is the pasuk that mentions the two aspects of the Bezdin, the passing judgment of death penalty or the acquittal of the death penalty. V'shoftu ha'eda, v'yitzilu ha'eda, says the Mishnah. Eida shofetes, v'eida matzeles. A congregation, a Bezdin that judges, that argues to convict the defendant, and v'eida matzeles, and a congregation and a Bezdin that saves, that acquits, that argues to acquit him. Says the Mishnah that the word Eida refers to 10 men. The word Eida always in Torah refers to 10 men, as we'll see in a minute. Arei kan esre. So it says in the pasuk twice, V'shoftu ha'eda, that's 10. V'yitzilu ha'eda, that's another 10. So now we have 20. Arei kan esrim. Arei kan esrim. So we see that the pasuk is referring to 20 dayonim. Now, before showing that we must have another 3 dayonim to create a lower court, a Sanhedrin Ketana, to be a court of 23, so the Mishnah has to stop for a second and explain something to us. The Mishnah just said that Ada is always 10. So in this pasuk it says, V'shofto Ada v'yitzilo Ada. Ada 1 is 10. Ada 2 is 10. So we have 20. How do you know that Ada? How do you know that Ada is taka 10? Frag the Mishnah, and Mishnah says, U'minayin le'eda she'yasor. How do we know that the word Ada refers always to 10? Shinema, because this is also the source that you need to have a Sora for a minyan, because a minyan is an Ada. An Ada is a mini community. An Ada is a mini tzibur. And the Ada is symbolic of the totality of Klal Yisrael, the ganze tzibur, the entire tzibur. Ada is a mini tzibur. What is a mini tzibur? A mini tzibur is 10. How do we know? Minayin le'eda she'asor. Shene'emar, says the Mishnah, ad mosai le'eda aro azos. It says regarding the 12 meraglim. Then Moshe Rabbeinu sent to Eretz Yisrael, and when they came back and they gave the negative report and they spoke ill, they spoke lashon hara about Eretz Yisrael, and they were asked, ad mosai le'eda aro azos. Until when will this evil congregation, until when will this Eida Ara, until when will these negative people persist and go on with their lashon hara, with their achilas, with their speaking ill of Eretz Yisrael? How much is this Eida? How many people spoke ill of Eretz Yisrael? How many people were involved in bringing this terribly negative report about Eretz Yisrael? Only 10, because Yotzu Yeshua v'Kolev, Yeshua and Kolev, although they were among the 12, they were excluded from the Eida Ara. They didn't speak ill. They were not part of the evil congregation. They were righteous. They were tzaddikim. They spoke the truth. So this leaves us with 10 of the original 12 spies. Leaves us with the 10 of the original 12 meraglim. And so we see that the word Ada refers to a group of at least 10 people. Right? Again, when the 12 spies returned from exploring Eretz Yisrael and reported back to Moshe and the people, all of them, except Yeshua and Kolev, said that the land was Eretz Acheles Yashvei. It was a land impossible to conquer. And upon hearing their report, the people lost faith in the Rebbeinu Shalom, who promised again and again and again to give them the land. And the Pasuk's description of the spies as an evil congregation, as an Eida Ara, obviously excludes Yeshua and Kalev, because they did not join with the other Meraglim in speaking negatively about Eretz Yisrael. In fact, they praised the land, and they tried to rally the people behind the Rebbeinu Shalom's promise of Kilachal Zaracha Etznena. Anyway, that's a piece unto itself, that Eida always means 10. And interestingly enough, there's a lot to say on it, but not here and now, that we learn this from a negative experience. We learn it from the Eida Hara, that every davar shebekedusha, Kaddish, Bochu, Shmoneh Esrei, Tefillah B'tzibur, Kriyas HaTorah, all has to be within a minyan, within an Eida, but it is derived from this negative experience. A lot to think about. So now we say we have 20. V'shoftu Eida, v'yitzilo Eida. Eida 1 is 10, Eida 2 is 20. So now says the Mishnah, Minayin la'ov yot shloisha. From where is it derived that we are to add another 3 dayonim to the 20, bringing the total of a Sanhedrin Ketana to 23? Says the Mishnah, the answer is Mimash Mashenemar Lo Siyeh Acher Rabim Leroes, from the implication of the pasuk that says in Shmois Perek Chav Gimel, Lo Siyeh Acher Rabim Leroes, you shall not follow a majority to harm the defendant, which seems to mean that a majority of the judges is not enough to convict someone. I may therefore conclude that I do follow the majority to benefit the defendant, to find the psak in his favor. That is, that the majority is enough to acquit him. If that's the case, why does it say achre rabim lahatos? Why is it stated later in the same verse, according to the majority, it shall be decided? According to the majority, it shall be decided. This can't mean that a majority is enough to acquit the defendant, because this halacha was already implied by the first part of the pasuk. The first part of the pasuk says, "Lo yisi acher rabim leroes." So why do I need to be told the second half of the pasuk, "Acher rabim lahatos"? Acher rabim lahatos. According to the majority, it shall be decided. But rather, the second part of the pasuk must be referring to convicting the defendant, and it teaches Loi behatayos choletoiva, hatayos cholera. Your decision to benefit, to acquit the defendant, shall not be the same as your decision to harm, to convict the defendant. How so is it not the same? How so is it not the same? Why do I need two parts? One telling me, lo yisi acher rabim leroes. The second part telling me, acher rabim lahatos. Why do I need both phrases? Oh, to teach me this important klal. That your decision to benefit, to acquit the defendant, shall not be the same as your decision to harm, to acquit. How is it not the same? Your decision to benefit, your decision to acquit can be based on only one judge, even if a majority of one is enough to acquit. But your decision to convict, your decision to harm, must be based on at least two dayonim. A majority of two is always required for conviction. A majority of two is always required for conviction. And therefore, at least 22 judges are necessary, because it must be possible that 10 judges vote to acquit, as we see, v'itzilu ha'eda, and 12 judges vote to convict. Ve'ein bezdin shokul, and there can be no bezdin of even number. Moisifim alei and oidecha. Therefore, we must add one more, which makes a total of 23. Arei kan esel v'shloisha. And so the Mishnah proved that a lower Sanhedrin, that the Sanhedrin Ketana, decides capital punishments, requires 23 dayonim. Requires 23 dayonim. If there is a majority for conviction of only one, 12 dayonim against 11, then what happens? Then we add more dayonim. Then we add more dayonim to the Bezdin until an appropriate majority is reached, as the Mishnah will teach us in Perek Hey, Mishnah Hey. Now the Mishnah has one more question to answer. The Mishnah previously taught us that every town in Eretz Yisrael must have a lower Sanhedrin, must have 23 dayonim. So our Mishnah defines how large of a town must be, how large does a town need to be in order to require its own Sanhedrin. In order to require its own Sanhedrin. How many people must be living in a town for it to be fit for a lower Sanhedrin? Answers the Mishnah, 120. 120 people is the minimum required for a town, and its court to operate properly. Rabbi Nechemia says, Mosayim u'shloishim. It must have at least 230 people, so that each of the 23 judges leads at least 10 residents. One of the 23 leads 10. Keneged Sorei Asoros, which corresponds to the officers of 10 who are mentioned in the Torah. Right? Sorei Alofim, Sorei Meos, etc. Sorei Asoros is the minimum. Sorei Asoros is the minimum. So if Sorei Asoros is the minimum, that equals to 230. Right? The Rav says, Masayim u'shloshim keneged Sorei Asoros, dehainu, Esrem u'shlosha asriyos. Sheyeheh kol dayan, sar shel asora. Each one is a dayan of 10. The bottom is Sorei Asora. Less than 10 is not considered like you don't have an oilam, you don't have a group, you don't have anything substantial to deal with. But ve'ein halacha ki Rabbi Nechemia. The halacha is, like the Tanakama, that a town must have a minimum of 120. There is a long arichis, which I can't go into now, of how 120 is reached. Okay, we finished Perek Aleph.